Welcome and thank you for joining us today on the Heroes and Icons podcast. I'm your host, Greg Randolph. Please find me on the X, as it's called now, at Heroes Icons Pod to get updates for great shows like this and others. If you're enjoying the show, please share that for me, and I appreciate you very much. We have a very special guest today. If you're a football fan, especially of the NFL and the Oakland Raiders, this gentleman needs no introduction. He was drafted by the Raiders in 1971 out of Bowling Green State after a sterling performance in the Senior Bowl and was the 1971 AFC Defensive Rookie of the Year. He was involved in one of the most famous plays in sports and NFL history, the Immaculate Reception play against the Pittsburgh Steelers in the 1972 AFC playoffs. He was also in the nostalgic Sea of Hands game against the Miami Dolphins in the 1974 AFC playoffs. He was a Super Bowl winner in Super Bowl 11, in which he made a momentum changing goal line tackle that forced a Minnesota Vikings fumble recovered by the Raiders, who defeated the Vikings that day 32-14. One of the fastest linebackers of his era, known for his big playmaking ability and coverage skills, he made 5 Pro Bowls over his 13 NFL seasons with Oakland from 1971 to 1979, and then Buffalo from 1980 to 1983. After his football playing days were done, he has enjoyed a very successful career in the logistics business. And in 2018, he was inducted into the Senior Bowl Hall of Fame. My guest today is Phil Villapiano. It's a tremendous honor to have you on the show with me today, sir. How you doing, Phil? What's keeping you busy these days?
Hello, Greg. What's keeping me busy? I've never been more busy in my whole life I should say, after I retired. It's like I'm busy, but I'm only doing things I want to do. We did 13 years in the NFL, and then we
Mhm.
had about almost 40 years in shipping.
Wow.
And actually, when I played, Greg, if you were smart and you had something, I want to say, if you were smart, you would do something in the 6 months that like they don't, nowadays, let's say the Raiders, they're in Vegas all year and they're working out all year.
Right.
When we had the last play of the last game, they locked the door and you couldn't get in for 6 months. You better go out and learn something. So when we won the Super Bowl, the Dunes Hotel threw a giant party for the Raiders, and we all went to Vegas. They flew us in there, and it was a golfing, gambling, Raider, real men's weekend.
Sure.
So I played golf with this guy for a couple of days, and he ended up wanting to talk to me when we got done, and he said, what do you do in the off seasons? And I said, I lift weights. He goes, well, here's my card. When you grow up, give me a call. And I said, what do you mean when I grow up? He goes, you could get hurt tomorrow, blah, 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 blah. And I said, yeah, I know, but that's not that, it doesn't worry me. And he goes, but you should learn something. And Ben Davidson, who was one of my teammates for a few years,
Yeah.
actually told me, Bill, take the business cards of everybody you meet there. You never know when you could, or when you'll, might need somebody or whatever.
Yeah.
So anyway, I had this guy's card. I get hurt in Pittsburgh the next year.
Hmm.
I call him up and I got 5 off seasons of shipping. So when I got hurt again in my 13th season, I had a place to go
Right.
and I had a secretary. I didn't know what I was talking about, but I tried and I ended up having a really great career in shipping. So as of January 1, I'm technically not working anymore, even though the phone, people keep calling me. I don't want to be working anymore. They're not
Okay.
paying me anymore. So
Gotcha.
anyway, it's been a great life so far. And yeah, so now I'm out in Palm Desert, California.
Okay.
And like I told you, Greg, I'm having my morning coffee,
Yep.
and my son is going to show up about 10 o'clock,
Yep.
and then we're going to go play golf. It's going
There
to
you
be
go.
another beautiful day.
Love it. Love
How
to hear
about
that.
all that?
That's great, man. Let me just ask you some Raider things here, obviously. So how did you get the nickname Foo? And then how did you come about the number 41?
Good questions. The nickname Foe came about came about after my I didn't know, it was my first regular season game. And what Al Davis used to do, only the Raiders would do something like this. I've never heard any other team, would do this. But there was this it was a piece of shit hotel, but they had a ballroom.
Right.
So Al would rent it out. It was called the Edgewater West. But he would throw a party, and it was all free booze. And after the game, win or lose, you go there, and then you got a table, and it was two players at a table, and Dwayne Benson, who was a linebacker with the Raiders, and we shared a table, and we each could bring in 4 guests, so there were like 10 of us. Anyway, I started drinking, and I didn't realize this, but my eyes get slanty, when I start to get a little drunk. And Dwayne Benson said, "Your name's not Phil, it's Foo. Look at you." And I'm like laughing. Bottom line, it's stuck. And if I'm in an airport now and somebody says Foo, I know it's an NFL guy. Right. Everybody in the NFL calls me Foo. So it stuck. And matter of fact, I was with a fella yesterday, and the guy goes, what was your nickname during your NFL days? And I just told him that story yesterday. People, like, it's a crazy name. Like, I don't even know how you knew that, Greg, but yeah. So I became Foo, and Foo stuck. And, the next part of your question, how did I get 41?
Yeah.
Well, when I got 41, you have no say in the NFL.
Right.
You go to the Raiders, Al Davis, John Madden, they decide everything for you.
Okay.
I had a feeling when they gave me 41 that they were thinking I was like 6'2", 225.
Right.
And I kind of thought they were thinking to put me at safety.
Yeah.
Which I didn't want to do. I wasn't a safety type mentality. I wanted to be a linebacker. But they didn't even care. They gave me a number. I could have been number 2 or 99. The Raiders, they didn't care about stuff like numbers. They just want you to play. So then I start playing, and I'm the only linebacker in the NFL with a 40. A lot of people remembered me for that. So it was kind of it was one of those things I didn't like in the beginning, but I ended up liking it. Right. And I like our linebacker right now from the Raider linebacker, number 41. The only problem, he came from the Steelers, but I'll forgive him because he's making a lot of tackles.
There you go. So when anyone hears the name Oakland Raiders, what does that mean to you with the mystique and everything associated with it? With Al Davis, Just Win Baby, and the whole thing.
Yeah, well, I'm totally, I'm an Oakland Raider, and I loved being in Oakland.
Right.
And I don't know if you ever heard the story about me getting traded to Buffalo. And back in those days, and this will all come together in a second here. Back in those days, there's 2 towns you didn't want to play in: Green Bay and Buffalo. Okay. Too cold. They were shitty teams. So if your owner didn't like you, you were going to one of those 2 places. So anyway, we're all playing golf one day. There's about 16 of us, and we could pick a golf course. We picked Pebble Beach. We could pick anywhere. Everybody in the Bay Area loved the Raiders.
Sure.
So we're playing at this place, Alameda, something municipal or something. And we come off, and there's the golf pro standing on the steps of the, where you go up into the bar. And he goes, "You guys, you ain't going to believe this." And what are you talking about? He goes, "You guys are going to Los Angeles." And I'm like, and I'm right next to Gene Upshaw. I said, "Uppy, what's he talking about?" He goes, "I have no clue." Now, Gene Upshaw knew everything. He was
Right.
our team captain, but him and Al Davis were buddies.
Yeah.
So anyway, he didn't know anything about it. We all go inside and we start having beers and we all start talking everybody in the place is a Raider fan. It was really cool. And then we go over to Dave Dalby's house for a barbecue, and the Oakland Tribune finds out that we're there, and they they call, and I think I was probably one of the last guys to say, get on they want to talk to this guy, talk to this guy. So I get on there, and I guess what I said wasn't so good. And I do remember saying that Al Davis is just a greedy, blah, blah, blah. He don't care about this town. That shows you where your question about Oakland. I loved Oakland.
Right.
He don't care about this town. I can't believe we're going to L.A. It's all about money for him. Hey, why not? It's a business. And, I was talking my linebacking love for the Raiders, Oakland self. So bottom line, we get done. I don't even remember what I said. Next morning in the Oakland Tribune, Villapiano won't go. And my wife looked at me and she said, "You're gone." Well, it took, we weren't leaving till 1980. So that was 77,
Oh. Mm-hmm.
So bottom line, I'm back in New Jersey working that shipping job I told you about. It's off season. And I come back from church, me and my two kids, and Patty's sitting there and she goes, "Al's on the phone. He wants to talk to you." I said, "It's 9:00 in the morning. It's 6:00 out there. What do you want?" Because I don't know. It's probably important. So, "Al, what are you doing?" "Hey, Phil, how are you, man? Are you strong? Are you blah, 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 blah?" I said, "Al, I'm strong. I can't wait, man. I can't wait to get back out there." He goes, "Oh, yeah, but I got to ask you a question." I said, "What?" He goes, "You played in a Pro Bowl game with Bob Chandler from Buffalo." I said, "Yeah, I did." And he goes, "What's he like?" I said, "I like the guy. Are you kidding me? Actually, it reminds me a lot of Fred Blitnikoff.
Sure.
Got the long blonde hair and he runs precise routes and yeah, and he's a good guy." He goes, "Phil, I don't want to make a mistake. Freddie's gone. Cliff may have a problem, and we need a great receiver." I said, "Al, I think he's a perfect pick, but he's a Pro Bowl guy." And I said, "Yeah, go get him." And he goes, I said, but you're going to have to give up somebody pretty good, but no big deal." And he goes, "Yeah, I was thinking about you." And I said, "What? You're going to trade him for me?" And he goes, "Yeah, yeah." And I start backpedaling and saying, "Al, come on, you're kidding with me." He goes, "No, I could make the deal. I could make the deal." And then I said, and Patty was sitting next to me, and she was kind of listening, and she started laughing because she was the one who said, "You're gone." Just took him 3 years to get me to, get the right deal. So anyway, I that's how I got traded to Buffalo, and I'm an Oakland Raider. When I went to Buffalo, I was an Oakland Raider. When I came out of football, I'm still an Oakland Raider, even though I love Vegas and I love Mark Davis. I love what he's done. I love the stadium he built. I still blame the city of Oakland and the stupid politicians
Yep.
for, there's tons of money in the Bay Area, tons.
Mm-hmm.
And there's tons of rich cities around Oakland. Somehow or another, they could have got money and built a new stadium. It was disgusting. So what I think the Bay Area is now robbed of the A's are leaving, the Raiders are gone, the Warriors are gone. These politicians ruined Oakland. That's the one cool little thing about,
Yeah.
about the Bay Area was Oakland. And they've ruined it. I go back there. I'll go back there in a couple of weeks. We got a little birthday party for John Vella. And
Yeah.
I'm going to go back there. It just breaks my heart what happened. And there's no coming back. They'll never have what they had. And
Yeah.
even they should have learned their lesson with the Raiders leaving. They're going to build a stadium for the A's and keep them right down by the water. It
Yeah.
would have been beautiful, but they couldn't get that done either. So
Yeah.
it's a shame.
It is a
It's a
shame.
shame.
It is a shame. But you played in such an incredible era of early 70s football at the time of the merger. There were some great old school guys there that you got to play with the Raiders. Daryl LaMonica, the Mad Bomber, George Blanda. I remember the Grecian formula commercial he did in the mid 70s. That's how old I am.
Did
Jim Otto,
George do it? I didn't even realize that.
yeah, it was about the time it was around 76, 77, about the time he retired.
Yeah.
So I somehow remember that. Anyway, but Otto, Davidson, Banaszak, Bolitnikov, Stabler, all those guys. What was that like in that to play in that time period in the early 70s of the NFL? What
Well, I
was that like?
couldn't have got. It's a great question, Greg. But I couldn't have got on a more perfect team for me.
Sure.
That goes back to my mother. Listen to this. So I come home from Bowling Green my senior year.
Hmm.
We got for Thanksgiving. We I don't even think there was a bowl game for Bowling Green to get in, even if we played good. Anyway, so we got Thanksgiving, and the Raiders are playing the Lions on Thanksgiving.
Okay.
Remember, every year the Lions played somebody. So we're sitting in the room now. I'm hoping to get drafted, but I don't think I'm going to get drafted because I went to Bowling Green. Who's going to draft me out of Bowling Green? Blah blah blah.
Hmm.
So anyway, we're in the room, the TV room in my house, and the announcers say, "Hey, we've got this new thing," and this is what 1960. I mean 70.
Yep.
The new thing was they mic'd up the coaches on the sideline, and we're going to get to hear the coaches coach today.
Okay.
So, bottom line, opening kickoff, the Raiders are going running down the field, opening kickoff, and the coaches say, get that mother, blah, 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 blah. They're screaming. So the mic'd up coaches only lasted about 5 minutes. And then my mother said, that team is disgusting. And she walks out of the room after the coaches are swearing. So bottom line, bottom line, I said, man, I want to be a Raider. That was my mentality. I could deal with that mentality. So yeah, there I go. As you know, I ended up getting drafted by the Raiders. And the guys, your question was the guys. It was amazing. George Blanda was my guy when he was with the Houston Oilers.
Sure.
And you
Yeah.
saw him do a Grecian formula commercial. I didn't realize that. I
Yeah.
wish he was alive. I would say, look at my white hair. George, give me some. But anyway, um, when if I was playing and I came to the sideline, you got a problem if you miss a tackle. You got John Madden, number one.
Right.
You got your linebacker coach, number two. You got George Blanda, number three. You got Jim Otto, number four. You got Fred Bolitnikov. You got Ken Stegler. These guys demanded that you play 110% every single play. It was
Right.
it was an amazing football team. But besides the guys demanding, and everybody demanded everybody to play great. That's why I think the Raiders were so good for so many years because of it. It was like your peer pressure. I'm
Yeah.
not going to miss a tackle and give it to Jack Tatum, who was right behind me in this tackle. You know what I mean? It was kind of cool, and and you've read the books and all that. Besides them, everybody being such professionals, they were the best partiers of any. I mean, we had a great thing. We played hard and we partied hard, and
Yep.
we got these crazy reputations. And with Al Davis and John Madden, wear whatever you want. Where you cut your sleeves, do whatever you want, but just win.
Right.
That became everybody in the league. I can't tell you how many of my friends around the league wanted to be a Raider because we were the only team that was that way
Right.
at that time. I mean, right now, you look at the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, I don't know if I would have ever bumped John Madden, but I think Kelsey and Andy Reid just bumped each other. But that was pretty intense. And I loved after the game, they're hugging each other. Yeah, man, I thought that was pretty cool. So
For the love of God, can anyone imagine like a Jim Mandich or somebody bumping a Don Shula? That would not have gone for a second without that death stare.
now Andy just turned and Kelsey was coming at him. Hey, Kelsey wants the ball. Give me the ball. I'll
Right.
get you a touchdown. It all worked out pretty good. But I think, yeah, I like the Chiefs now. I like the Ravens. I like all the AFC guys. Like a lot of people were talking last week. Who am I rooting for? Wait a minute. I'm rooting for the AFC. I'm rooting for the AFC West
Right.
above all things.
Yep.
I still don't like the NFC. When I got in the league, they've only been around 2 years. So, there was a chip on everybody's shoulder because the NFC really thought they were so much better and
Right.
stronger, and they had the better players.
Right.
I remember when we were at Super Bowl 11, we're the underdogs to the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah.
We're looking at these guys. We're the underdogs. I bet Kenny Stabler made a lot of money that day.
Man,
Not that he would ever bet.
sure. Sure. I mean, but that was a great era with those coaches and so many tremendous players. You guys all worked hard. You wanted to be the best. You could say that about I think, a whole lot of teams as well as the Raiders. Shula, Landry, Noel,
Oh
um,
yeah. Well,
Madden,
the great coaches had the great teams that
Lombardi.
won every year. They
Right.
all had a different style. I
Right.
mean, I remember going to a Pro Bowl game and we had the Steeler coaches. Thank God for the linebacker coach, Woody. His name was Woody some, but Noel wouldn't even talk to me because I was a Raider.
Right.
The Steelers hated the Raiders. We
Right.
hated them. We hated we hated the Dolphins. Back in those days, the Chiefs, Dolphins, Raiders,
Yeah.
Steelers.
Yep.
They were cut above.
Yeah, but you guys dominated though, and to your point about the NFC not liking you guys. I mean, the AFC won an awful lot of Super Bowls.
Yeah.
After that, I mean, I think let's see, Green Bay won the first two, and then the Cowboys won Super Bowl 6 against the Dolphins. But I mean, like past that, like in those first 10, 12, 15 years, I mean, you didn't see the NFC winning a whole lot of those Super Bowls. So that you guys definitely proved yourselves
Yeah, I
in
think
that
so.
regard. Yeah.
And there was a little bit of a incentive.
Right.
It was just fun. It was fun being the AFC guys. I
Yeah.
remember playing in the Pro Bowl when it was for keeps.
Yeah.
And I remember playing again. Whoever they put up at tight end, that guy was going to have a hard day because you wanted to show the AFC is the best conference, and they're the best NFC against the best conferences, the best players. Let's have a war.
Right.
I loved the Pro Bowl games.
Yeah.
And now, oh my God, what a shame
Yeah.
what's happened to that.
Well, it's not even in Hawaii anymore. That was I think that was a big point of having the Pro Bowl. You got rewarded for having a great season, being voted to the Pro Bowl. You got to go to Hawaii, and you were voted one of the best by your peers.
Yeah, well, that's true. But, I never got to Hawaii because that was after me. I
Oh
went to
gosh. Yeah.
Miami, Kansas City,
Oh man.
Seattle,
Uh-huh.
and where else? So I got four in a row.
No way.
And they were all over the place. I remember going to Kansas City
Mm-hmm.
and it was freezing.
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing here?
Right.
It was so cold. But I'm just happy to be a part of that.
And you were in, back to to you guys hating the Steelers, you were in the epic game, the Immaculate Reception game, and with your friend, the late great Franco Harris, and you're also in the Dolphins Sea of Hands game. Well, I'll get to that one in just a second, but let me start with the Immaculate Reception game. Can you tell me what happened on that play where you were and you were I know you were clipped by McMakin, I think,
Yeah,
and
that was nuts, Greg. I remember being in the huddle,
Mhm,
and so it's my second year. Franco's a rookie,
right.
and we got the game. I mean, Kenny comes in, Kenny bootlegs, goes around 25 yards or something for a touchdown.
Mhm.
We got him the fourth down and 22, fourth and 22.
Wow.
And I'm in the huddle, and we got this thing we put in for situations like that where they took out the middle linebacker Dan Connerson, Gerald Irons, and I stayed in,
Yep.
and we're guarding. I got Franco, he's got Fuqua. So, and then the other guys are going to make like a little dome. So we're going to have a zone deep and man to man up tight, up close. So I said, no penalties, no guys, no penalties. We're out here. One play, we're going on to the playoffs. So, Bradshaw's height, takes the snap. I don't know how many holding penalties they could have called on the linemen. Our guys were being tackled. They weren't going to get in no matter what. But
Mhm.
somehow, I think it was a Horse Jones actually got in and spooked him out. He got running over there, and I swear he just threw the ball down the field. And here we got that deep zone, and Tatum comes up and nails. No, well, let me back up a sec. I go on Franco. I grab him, and then I took my hands off him real quick because in Pittsburgh, you could have got a flag for doing anything. So I took my hands down, and he's kind of going over here very slowly. And Bradshaw throws the ball, and Franco starts sprinting down the field, and I'm running right on his inside. But I see where Tatum is coming up on Fuqua. I mean, I'm looking right at it. I'm going over there just in case I have to help. And then Tate hits Frenchie, and the ball goes off his shoulder right directly over my head. And I turn back over here, and here's Franco catching it. Well, it maybe caught it. Maybe it hit the ground. Well, no. There was no good film of if he caught it or not.
Right.
Bottom line, he was out of there like a dart. I make a move on him. The guy making dives in the back of my legs. I don't fall. If I fell, maybe we get a clipping call. I should have fallen. But I thought I could make the play.
Yeah.
I tell you what, Franco Harris is a lot faster than you think when he wants to run.
Oh yeah.
That guy was out of there. And he was going down the field. And so the play is over. And John Madden is going wacky.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what's he going wacky about? And he's out on the field, and I think you've probably seen clips of that. He's on the field yelling and screaming. And I didn't even know the rule. If it goes from offensive guy to an offensive guy,
Hmm.
play's dead.
Right.
You can't do that. You could do it now, but you can't do it then. So anyway, Madden is saying that. And I don't even think the referees knew. You got to remember, I was 1972.
Right.
These referees taught school during the day. I mean, they
Yeah.
flew in. I mean, come on. They were not professional referees like they are now.
Sure.
Holy mackerel. So I said to myself, coach don't usually act like this
Right.
unless he knows something.
Sure.
So I had no idea. I'm just over there. I'm pissed. Franco was my guy. He scores the touchdown. All I was trying to do was do what I usually do, trying to make a tackle. They got lucky. I'm thinking, we lost. So now it goes on and on and on, and there's no decision until they called New York and all that stuff. And then the referee comes out of the dugout and goes touchdown. Holy mackerel. Madden went nuts again. And then we finally got it. The field was swarmed. I can't believe, that there was, the police had lost control.
Yep.
And we finally got in the locker room and John told us. And I'm like, holy mackerel. He says, guys, you won that game. They took that from us. Al Davis comes in. You won that game. I'm like, holy mackerel, I can't believe this. This was my second year in the league. And I'm going to tell you one thing, Greg. I was exhausted. I'm beat up. It's so hard to be a pro football player. It's amazingly on your body. You get so beat up. And I was sitting there like exhausted and thinking, maybe we have to go to Miami. I didn't even know if I wanted to go. But anyway, and with the Immaculate Reception was nuts. And the Raiders, we got in a lot of those games. I don't know how we got in so many of those crazy games, but we did. And that was just one that went the other way. But like you mentioned, Franco and I were both from New Jersey. We both have
Yeah.
Italian heritage. Our friendship actually started in 1972. I was the New Jersey Italian Player of the Year in 71 and 72. He wins it. My parents, my father, he loved the Italians. So they invited him to come back to Trenton. It was in Trenton.
Okay.
And Franco's parents show up, and Franco's mother speaks the same dialect as my father from the same part of Italy.
Wow.
And they spoke Italian the whole day. They had a great time. So Franco, we must have played him in the 73. And he goes, Bill, I got to tell you something. My mother and your father. I said, Franco, I know. So this was after a game. We're walking off the field talking about our parents. And we became very good friends. And, then when, then through the Immaculate Reception, we really didn't talk a whole bunch about that until later. And then we did so many dinners together. And, matter of fact, the morning he died, Janie and I were packing our bags. We're going to Pittsburgh for the 50-year reception or anniversary of the Immaculate Reception. They were going to retire his jersey. Everything was going to be wonderful, and he dies that morning. So Mike Ciani, who was also going, Mike and Franco were good buddies. And they played in a few all-star games together, and they got drafted at the same time. So Mike calls me up and goes, what do you think? I said, now more than ever, let's go to Pittsburgh. He goes, oh, okay, I'll meet you there. So Mike and I went to Pittsburgh. We instead of all the things we had planned for Franco's, being alive, we turned it into one big dinner. We called it the celebration of Franco's life. It was a beautiful thing. And, I got to speak that night. And I could go on and on about the Immaculate Reception. When I get in front of Pittsburgh people, they committed probably 20 penalties. I make up things every time I talk about it. It gets worse. But yeah, I lost a good friend in Franco, and I told his son Doc. We talked December 24th this year, December 23rd.
Right.
So Doc and I talked, and I said, Doc, from now on, I'm calling you because your father Franco would call me every December 23rd around 4:07 in the afternoon. You want to know what I was doing 30 years ago, 35 years ago?
Right.
So it became fun, and then we catch up every year. It was really good. Matter of fact, a good story that when Franco, one of the times we were talking, he goes, "Hey, Phil, I want to do something. It's on my bucket list." And I go, "What is that?" He goes, "I want to go to Oakland because this is the Raiders last year in Oakland was, what, 4 years ago or something."
Right.
And Franco says, "I want to go to Oakland as a spectator and just see how crazy that stadium is and all that." I said, "Franco, no problem. When do you want to go?" He goes, "I want to go for the Steeler game. It's the last game of the season. Let's go." I said, "Okay, let's do it." So anyway, we fly into town. We're staying at the Marriott downtown. He paid, Franco shows, I show, we meet in the bar. I said, "Okay, I told them I got the weekend. Don't think about it." So we go out to Orinda, and Bob Moore, who played tight end with us, and Jim Plunkett, who's Bob. They both played at Stanford. Bob was the big receiver at Stanford. Plunkett and Bobby show up. Me and Franco show up. So all our wives show up. So we have a nice dinner, and that was Saturday night. Sunday, we go to the stadium. I got the black hole now, and you probably know we got Raider fans listening. This was the real black hole, which used to happen in the parking lot, and they would have a tent, and it was nuts in the bar and bartenders, and they got everybody's dressed up in there. All the characters are there, and I got the president to induct Franco into the black hole in the parking lot, and they gave him a plaque, and they gave him a crazy helmet and all this nutty stuff. And then I said, "Franco, come on, we got to go." Okay, so we go. We got a guy. Now the Raiders gave us this cart with the police down in the tunnel, right onto the field. We're on the field. We got Mark Davis out there. Reggie Jackson from the A's was out there.
Wow.
We had Reggie McKenzie was the general manager at the time. So Reggie had everything planned out. And when Franco came out, and Mark Davis was out in the middle of the field with all dressed in white like his father. So I brought Franco out there, and then he got introduced to the stadium from the 50-yard line. Mark Davis stepped back and pointed to Franco. And, "Ladies and gentlemen, this all guy. The Raiders did all this choreography. It was some cool thing." And Franco got introduced in Oakland. Standing ovation. That's the way the Raider fans are. They appreciated him, for being such a great player. And yeah, that all came from the Immaculate Reception, So with that goes on forever and ever and ever.
I'm so glad that you guys got to celebrate his life.
Well, Greg, they did at the 40th anniversary. Remember that we were in Three River Stadium, so now they built the other stadium. Somebody found the exact spot on the ground where it happened.
It's
in the parking lot,
right?
And so at the 40th year anniversary, Franco invited me back, and we did our thing again. And they put the monument in the
Okay.
parking lot.
Gotcha.
So the Steelers did do that was a beautiful weekend. Steelers put that one on. I was a Raider. I represented the Raiders, and we had so many things. And the reason I got him, I put him
Mhm.
inducted into the black hole was
Right.
because he inducted me into Franco's Italian Army
Ah,
that weekend.
yeah.
So they gave me the helmet, and then we gave him a helmet too.
Nice.
Very, very cool stuff.
Very cool.
He was going to be alive, and it would have been a wonderful thing. So he would, got in the Hall of Fame, and
Mhm.
and then retiring his number. That was going to be a big weekend.
Very good. Well, as I told you, I'm a lifelong Dolphins fan, and I guess I have to somewhat begrudgingly mention the Sea of Hands game, but history is history. But what was that game like? I mean, you actually intercepted Bob Greasy to close out that game and win it for you guys. But what was that game like?
Well, that was probably one of the most up and down football games I was ever in. I don't know if a lot of people don't even remember. We were so ready to beat the Dolphins,
Hmm.
and the Dolphins are good.
Yeah.
I mean, they're a great team. And Don Shula and John Madden preached all week long. You can't make any mistakes in this game. All the refs are against you because Don Shula is on the committee. The refs answer to him. We got to be lily white, blah, blah, blah. So everybody in town brings, when we went to play the Dolphins the year before, they're all waving the white handkerchiefs. And
Hmm.
that day, everybody's got black bras and underwear and towels, and the place is going crazy for the opening kickoff. Everything black, 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 black. We kick it off to the Dolphins, and Nat Moore runs 100 yards for a touchdown. The stadium went, all of that great. Everybody was so fired up. And all of a sudden, we're down 7-0. And then it was a fight the whole day, just a fight to, get back. And I don't know if we ever led until Snake did the Sea of Hands. I think that was the first time the whole day we got ahead. I think we were always behind him. And I remember, oh God, I was going to be the GOAT of the game, but it actually turned out pretty good. They put in their their tight end. I forgot his name.
Probably Mandich or
Something happened
Fleming.
to him. What's
Mandich
that?
or Jim Mandich or Marv Fleming, probably.
Jim Mandich, good, really good player. Marv Fleming, older, Green Bay
Yep.
Packer, right?
Hmm.
So Mandich gets hurt, and I got to make a play. I got to make a play. In comes Fleming. I said, this guy can't block me. So it ends up, it's going to be a sweep. And I took the inside. He suckered me into it and just blew me down the line. The guy goes around the end. And remember, we had a missed tackle out there by somebody, and I forgot who ran it, about 25 yards for a touchdown.
I think that was Cliff Branch for you guys. The Dolphin didn't touch him down, and he got up and ran it down in for the touchdown. Is
Well,
that
wait a minute. I'm not talking about the Dolphins have the ball,
okay?
and now they score.
Okay.
But they scored and left Kenny some time, and then we came down the field.
Oh
And
no, that
then
was that was that was Benny Malone. He scored
Ben
too.
Malone, you're
He
right.
scored too soon. That's right. That's right.
Yeah. So he scores, but we got time.
Yeah.
And then we come down, and then Clarence Davis, he can't catch a cold, and he somehow or another he catches that pass.
Yeah.
That was nuts. And so Snake's falling down, flips it in the end zone. And when, so now we got to stop them, because you got to remember you got one of the best kickers in the world, and the goalposts are on the goal line in those days.
Yep.
All they got to do is cross the 50 and they're going to make it. So we were playing, greasy, and, I'm thinking to myself, Paul Warfield's the best guy in the league. He's over there on the other side of the field of me. I'm dropping back and I'm looking, and here comes Paul. And I just took off, boop, and went right in front of him, caught the ball. And then one of the most happiest things that I did, and John appreciated this too, man. A lot of guys keep those balls. I went over and gave John that ball right there. The game's over. I give John the ball. John raises it up, and remember, people were coming down. He wanted to win that game so bad that he deserved the ball. And there we were. We're moving on. That was a great game.
Yeah.
And it was probably one of the most craziest games I've ever been in. Up and down, up and down, up and down. And then it turned out great.
Well, what a great game in NFL history. And it just seems like whenever there's a game like that, there's one big play that someone manages to make, and they really rise to the occasion and make that play and propel their team to victory. The Mahomes, Stabler, Davis, Franco Harris, whatever. It just seems like there's that one big play that changes the outcome.
Yeah, you know what? You're right. In that immaculate, Sia Hands game, there was a bunch of big plays, and which it even made it better.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was a great game to be in. I remember, and my wife was up in the stands, and I bought her this little TV set so she liked to watch the instant replays and stuff. So she's got the TV set. She said she was ready to throw the TV set when they were so happy. It was nuts.
Oh, man. Well, let me ask you a couple more things here if I can, and then please go run and hit them straight and play some good golf today.
Will do, I hope.
Well, let me ask you. There was a story that I read that in 2001, the New Jersey sports writer and author Jerry Eisenberg wrote a great piece about you offering your Super Bowl 11 ring to a Raiders fan who had an injured leg and had to go through a whole lot of rehab just to even have a chance of walking. And you offered him your ring. Hey, you're going to need some inspiration. What was there something that inspired you to help this fan, or was it the Raider bond? Was it something along those lines?
Yeah, hey, Greg, it was that was 9/11.
Okay.
Happened. Right. And the NFL shut down that Sunday. This was a Tuesday, right? Pretty 9/11. They shut down a week. And then the following weekend, I had bought, from my company, I rented the suite, the big suite at the game. We got the bartender, blah, blah, blah. But you got to remember what the United States was. So we were reeling, man. Everybody was coming together. Finally, everybody was coming together, and it felt so good, that the NFL was starting up again. And I don't know, I really took that to heart, and I couldn't wait to get back in the Coliseum. I had customers flying in from everywhere. We had a really great day. Flutie versus Gannon. Gannon wins the game, like 35-32, some crazy score. And we're all drinking in the booth. And finally, they're knocking on the door. Say, Phil, you got to go. And it's, you've been in here 2 extra hours. So anyway, we're walking out there, and I don't know who needs a beer more, me or some of my people. And when there was a group, I said, hey, man, we're in Oakland. Let's go over there. we'll get a beer. So I go over there, and there's this guy sitting in a wheelchair, and his name is Mitch Ulrich. Really, really good man. He's sitting in the chair. He's got these two girls, little girls next to him, 6 years old. And I go, what happened to you? And he's got the paint on his face. I mean, he's a real Raider fan.
Sure.
He goes, I dove in the pool. I broke my neck.
Oh, man.
Now, it just so happens Conrad Dobler and I are best friends. His wife is in a hammock. Somebody dove in a hammock and it spun, and she goes right down and breaks her neck. So at that time, I'm very up on broken necks. And I said, oh, man, Conrad's wife told me I'm going to walk again because I didn't sever my spinal cord. I said, and then she goes, technically, if you don't sever your spinal cord, you know, you can rehab yourself back into walking. So I told the guy, I said, oh, so you must have broke your neck. And he goes, no, I didn't. I said, well, then why are you sitting in this wheelchair? Get up. And he looked at me. I said, get up, man. You didn't break your neck. You're a Raider. Get up. And he pushes, and his whole body, there's nothing left. Nothing left. No muscles. I said, no, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I said, but you know that you can walk again. And he goes, Phil, I know, but I haven't really given it the effort. And as one of his friends is standing there, and I said, and his name was John. And I said, John, is this guy for real? Is he full of shit? Phil, he's the most for real guy you'll ever meet. I said, well, John, would you be his coach and you coach him back? And John says, I will do that. I will coach him every day and make sure he works out. Blah, 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 blah. So I had my Super Bowl ring on. I said, Mitch, give me your hand. And I slid my ring on his finger. I said, give this back to me when you can walk.
Right.
And he goes, no, I can't take this ring. I said, you got the ring. Keep the ring. It's yours. Till you can walk. I'm only loaning it to you.
Right.
2 years later, I'm doing a Super Bowl show up in Reno, Nevada with Conrad Dobler's there. Glenn Carano owns the hotels up there. The word got out that Mitch is going to walk in Reno. ESPN, ABC, NBC, everybody's there to see this thing happen.
Yeah.
We got up on, he comes in Saturday in a wheelchair. And I said, Mitch, you're in a wheelchair. He said, I told you I'm going to walk tomorrow. That's all I want. I'm walking. So he comes in, 41 jersey on, face paint, everything, goes up to the stage in his wheelchair. A couple of the guys that were actually when I gave my ring to him are there. They lift him up and put him on the stage. Glenn Carano, who owns the hotel, Silver Legacy, is telling everybody what's going to happen. And then he gives me the microphone, and Mitch is over there, and he's got these two little canes on his hands. So he's standing up, and he starts shaking. Now, and then I say, I do my little thing, and I say, okay, Mitch, and I'm about 8 feet away.
Yeah.
I said, give me my ring back. And he starts shaking and shaking and shaking. And he moved his foot about an inch. And then he starts shaking and shaking and move his other foot. And now he's can't catch his balance. And then he gets up and he throws those crutches aside. And now he's shaking like crazy. And meanwhile, I'm getting closer because I notice something bad's going to happen. He took one more step and then grabbed me around my head. Now he's holding on to me, and I got to get him back up. I said, Mitch, you walked. The place went crazy. His mother was crying. His daughters were crying. It was unbelievable what happened that day. And I got my ring back. Matter of fact, my ring is here somewhere. And it was just a wonderful thing. Started a lifelong relationship with Mitch Ulrich. And I'd like to say one more thing about that.
Sure.
My mother was 93. She's back in New Jersey. And she's watching a Good Morning show. And the announcer goes, "You're not going to believe what an Oakland Raider did yesterday." My mother said she knew it was me. She didn't know anything. She didn't know nothing. So after the commercial, they have the film of Mitch doing that, and diving on me and everybody crying and so happy. My mother calls me, "Philip, you never told me." Oh, my mother's crying. About, let's say a month later, I get a call from Oprah Winfrey's producer of her show. She said, "Phil, you need to be in Chicago on this date."
Mm-hmm.
I said, "I would, but I can't." I needed to be in Houston on that date. I was, it was a big business thing. I had set up my whole week. She said, the producer says, "Well, can I send somebody to your house and get some stuff? You can't be there." So they came to my house, got all kinds of pictures, and they did the best they could. But they have these awards every year. Oprah has the awards, and I got the most inspirational award of that year. I inspired this guy to walk. But the cool thing was Oprah gave him a 1-year scholarship at this place in San Diego called Project Walk. That was the name. That's still there.
Yeah.
Anybody who's got a broken neck, I got invite. So anyway, Mitch, all expenses paid for a year, goes down the Project Walk, and they worked him, and they worked him, and they worked him. Mitch today uses crutches.
Right.
Because, a lot of people don't realize this. Crutches is better than a wheelchair.
Yes. Yeah.
If you can use it. Most people that are in wheelchair can't walk. But anyway, after he came out of Project Walk, he could use crutches. Matter of fact, I went to visit him down there, and he was like running with his crutches. He became so good at it. So, yeah, that turned out to be very nice. And, Oprah Winfrey jumped in. That was wonderful. Everything about that thing was great. Why I did it, I have no clue. I think it was because of 9/11.
Yep.
And, knowing a little bit about broken necks and the guy and his daughters, and that's what I did.
Right place at the right time. And what a great inspiration. I know how much he must appreciate you and love you for that, for everything that you did for him. That's
Well,
really great, man.
it was good. It was all about him, and I do a lot of stupid things, goofy things, and I always seem to get out. It always turns out to be the right thing. So I'm almost thinking, maybe in the Catholic religion, we call it grace, right?
Right.
Hail Mary, full of grace, right?
Yeah.
I think I got a bunch of grace inside of me that always helps me out when I need it. Like I got my ring back. The guy didn't take off at my ring like some people might have happened.
Right.
And a lot of good things happened to me in my life. And now, like I told you before, Greg, hey, I'm finally retired, and hopefully we can go on and have a bunch more years of
There we
good
go.
stuff.
There we go. Love it. Let me ask you one more question here. So, in the past, you were involved in a parent initiative called Flag Football Under 14 with some other NFL greats like Harry Carson and the late great Nick Bonacani. What was that organization? What was the initiative or the outset of that to prevent kids from playing tackle football past their or before the age of 14?
Yeah, it all started, yeah, and I remember, God, this was terrible. Nick Bonacani, Harry Carson, myself, we became like the guys, the NFL guys behind this. And all it was, hey man, just give yourself some time. Give yourself some time to get your neck stronger. Give
Right.
yourself some time to get your brain, to grow up a little bit. And
Hmm.
who knows? I mean, nobody really knows, but there's a group up in Boston, and they they had the idea that if they just don't hit your heads, get older before
Right.
you hit your heads, and it might stop all these concussions. And this was right when CTE started, and you remember the Steeler
Yeah.
guys and all that stuff. So yeah, we came up with the idea, and we backed it. And Nick Bonacani was a dear friend. And the last time I saw Nick, we were in New York City, and we were kicking off this, under 14. Don't hit till you're over 14. And Nick got CTE,
Yeah.
and he couldn't even speak. I've never seen. And I flew from a Pro Bowl game. He was the middle linebacker. I was the outside linebacker. We flew back to Miami together. We talked the whole time. I wouldn't let him go to sleep because I wanted to pick his brain on everything. And to see him the last time when he couldn't even speak because of his CTE, that even solidified it more. Where Harry and I were like, "Man, we're doing the right thing."
Yeah.
And yeah, we got there's a lot of play flag football. Just don't use your head. And you also got to think. I think about coaches. You get some maniac coach that
Yeah.
played high school football and he wants to kill the kids. No, that shouldn't be what football is all about. It, I like when Pete Carroll was teaching his guys to tackle and roll. Don't stick your face into the knee. Oh my God, I can't tell you, Greg, how hard, how many times I did that. I mean, right into the knee, face to face. Oh, I, I I feel pretty good, but man, I worry too. I saw
Yeah.
Nick go from great to nothing, and
That's right.
anything that can make football safer, for, and anything that could make football stick around. I mean, do you remember all the CTE when the movie came out, when the concussion movie? What's it called?
Yeah.
Concussion. That's what it's
Yeah.
called. And they start talking about stopping football. You can't stop football. It's the greatest game in the world, but make it safer if you
Right.
can.
Yep. Yep. What do you think about the rules with the quarterback now? It seems like the quarterbacks are protected so much we almost have to pick them up and set them down to, as opposed to sacking them. And maybe I'm over exaggerating, but it seems like the pendulum is maybe swung a little too far the other way.
Well, yeah, but yes and no. You could see how guys um, hit quarterbacks in the old days, my era.
Yeah.
Oh my God, we could do anything we wanted to anybody, and all of a sudden, you can stop doing that if it's a 15-yard penalty. So maybe you're right. Maybe it swung a little bit too far, but I'm telling you, and I saw it coming. when they used to go at Brady's legs,
Yeah.
right? He'd step up and the guys be hitting him in the knee.
Mm-hmm.
That's a cheap shot. The blocks on the side of the knees, those are cheap shots. And, they don't belong in football. And I think protecting the quarterbacks are fun. And I know when I'm hitting somebody at a certain level, and I didn't need to do that.
Right.
We did it anyway because
Yeah.
that's the way it was. You
Sure.
could, I mean, I'll never forget. We're playing against the Chiefs, and we hate the Chiefs. And Pogulak gets a toss, and he breaks it around the other side of the field. And George Atkinson, who's a strong safety behind me, he's a nasty, nasty player. And I'm running right behind him, and Pogulak is going up the sideline, and George could either probably shove him, hit him with a shoulder,
Mm-hmm.
or he could club him. And what do you think he did? Bam! Clubs him right in the face. It was a cheap shot. No,
Yeah.
I'm right behind him. This guy's come running off the bench, and he's going to hit George, but he don't see me.
Mm-hmm.
I could have done shove him or hit him with my shoulder, or I could club him, and he don't even see me. I bam right in his face, and then I go down. I'm under the bench. The Chiefs are kicking me. Blah 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 blah. But that's the way football used to be.
Yeah.
If George clubbed him, he'd be out of the game. If I clubbed him, I'd be out of the game.
Yeah.
But that was the way it was. So I think in the NFL now, they're getting to where they're not calling every single penalty
Right.
on a defensive backs.
Yep.
And I think they got it right with the quarterbacks. I mean, you could, that poor guy from Miami a couple of years ago, Tua, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God, he gets up and falls down. My God, he's knocked out, and that was technically, I thought a cheap shot. So anyway, the NFL's trying hard. It's the greatest game ever. Let's keep it the greatest game and not have cheap shots. Get rid of that shit.
Right.
I play football the way it was played in my era.
Right.
Right now, it's played different.
Yeah.
It's still the greatest game going. I mean, remember last weekend? What a game! What a game! Overtime.
Is there a charity or a business or something that we could call attention to and have the listeners support today? Anything that's near and dear to your heart?
Well, the one I like is the Mercy Center in Asbury Park, New Jersey. And the Mercy Center is for women. They actually do a lot of things, but they also have a school, and it's for girls that are coming through real bad families. Father's gone, the mother's this, somehow or another, they put these girls in this school, and I give money. I go there every Christmas, and they're dressed beautiful. I mean, these kids got nothing.
Yeah.
And everything, that's my biggest charity is the Mercy Center in Asbury Park, New Jersey. They also have another sector of that, which is right on Main Street in Asbury Park, and that's for the homeless. So they do good for the homeless, but I like the school. Springwood Avenue, Asbury Park. Go visit. Greg, anybody from New Jersey that might be listening, go visit Mercy Center.
I will do it.
Asbury Park.
I'm going to put this in the show notes for the podcast and be sure that the listeners go and check that out. And
cool.
I have several friends.
That would be very nice.
Absolutely. I appreciate you very much.
Thank you, Greg.
No, thank you, Phil, for speaking with me today. And I appreciate you very much for having such a great conversation with me. And I truly enjoyed it. I can't thank you enough for being my guest today.
Well, you were very organized, and you asked the right questions. And I got to go to Chicago. It's the 29th of February,
Okay.
and I got to be. I'm a speaker at a breakfast, so they want me to talk for like 45 minutes. And you, just by doing this, you got my brain working again. I used to do that all the time, but
Yeah.
you get your questions. I could use your questions in my mind to tell some stuff.
Well, I tell you
You know,
what, I'll send you my notes here for the podcast, and then that way, if you want to refer back to them, you can certainly do that too.
that'd be cool, right?
Yes, sir.
Good.
I've got you. I've got you. Well,
Okay, that'd be great.
I'll
Thank
get
you,
you.
Greg. Have a great day.
You too. Thank you, Phil. Thank you, Phil,
Okay,
so
bye
much.
bye now.
Bye bye. Thank you, Phil. All right, everyone. Thank you again for listening to the Heroes and Icons podcast with your host, Greg Randolph. Once more, thank you to our guest, Phil Villapiano. And you can find the link to the website that we discussed, the Mercy Center in Asbury Park, New Jersey, in the show notes for the podcast. Again, please follow the show on the X at Heroes Icons Pod. And if you would be so kind as to rate, share, and subscribe wherever you might be listening, that would be very much appreciated. Thank you again, everyone, for listening. Have a great night and God bless.